see you. How are you?
I remember that background.
Yeah, that's right. It's the same. It's the exact same picture.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, the house is looking good, my man.
Oh,
Sunny,
it's
well put together, the whole nine.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. I remember you have the same one as well.
I do, I do, I do. How you been?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. It's been a long time. It's been a long
It
time.
has
Yeah,
been.
but everything's going well, man. It's an evolution, just kind of figuring things out, making adjustments. Yeah, but everything's going pretty well. How
I
about
get it.
you?
I get it. I'm good. I'm good. I think I am in when I came on Mindful Fire, I was just at the beginning of whatever Try Life On was going to be,
Right.
and starting to meet people like you because now my mind was starting to be on the same frequency as folks like Adam who were trying to figure life out from a different perspective. And you told me something. I don't know when we reconnected or how we reconnected, but when I think we were talking on WhatsApp somehow, and you were asking me just kind of what's been going on with you, Maurice, or something. And you
Yeah.
said to me something that caught my attention. And it was you said, yeah, a friend of yours, or maybe it was someone that you coached or worked with at Google or whatever,
Hmm.
said to you that they were leaving the company after 5 years. And you're like, man, it's only been 5 years. Why are you leaving the
Right.
company? Yeah, do you remember
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
told me? Yeah,
Yeah.
what was
He's like, I got what I came for.
well, it's we're laughing about it because we understand it, but intrinsically the rest of the population won't pick that up right away. What did he mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I guess question, are
Oh
we in it
yeah, we're in
already?
it. I just go.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I just go, bro.
Um, yeah, I mean, that was a while ago. And
Yeah.
um what it meant to me is that he came in with a clear intention for why he was taking that job, right? It wasn't just because he wanted to work at Google and he wanted to, eat the free food and make the money.
Yeah.
He had a specific intention. He wanted to come into this big company, this big successful tech company. He wanted to see how it worked, how it ran, how they made decisions, how they made investments. And then when he got that, he said, "All right, I'm going to go and apply this in my own life, in my own business." And he's been doing that since.
That's unreal to me, and I don't think people think intentionally like that. Well, I generally don't think people think intentionally like that. But
Yeah.
so that was what prompted me to like, oh man, I got to get Adam on because you're on a little bit of a journey as well, and I call it your post-exit construction phase. But just for the podcast listeners, go ahead and just introduce yourself. Yeah, you know the journey that I think most of my folks will be interested in, and then let's just go from there.
Yeah, so I'm Adam Coehlo. I'm uh, a lot of things, a father, a
Yeah.
husband,
Yeah.
and but I spent my whole career at Google in the tech world, working in sales roles, things like that.
Hmm.
But along the way, I came across two things. The first was this idea of mindfulness and the practice of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that as simply a kind, curious awareness of what's going on inside me, inside my mind, around me in my external environment.
Hmm.
And the second thing was financial independence, retire early, the FIRE movement.
Fire movement. Yeah.
And both of them kind of captivated me. Mindfulness really helped me initially start to understand myself better, right? Who am I? What do I want? What do I want? What do I care about? And it kind of brought to light the inner critic that was kind of running my life, but I wasn't even aware of it. I was
Mm.
believing everything I thought. I was, thinking I should be further along and kind of chasing that, Silicon Valley American dream whole thing to some degree. And mindfulness was like, wait a second, there's this thought pattern in your head and it's not really getting you where you want to go. It's not really useful.
Mm.
So maybe I can just look at it with mindfulness and just take out the judgment and start to say, hey, is this what I want to practice? Or can I let it go?
Amazing.
Fire came a little bit later, where it was this realization of, wait a second, I don't need $10 million or really honestly, I thought it was infinity. I thought, you just keep
Yep.
accumulating money as much as you can
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
and maybe one day you'll be able to retire. But the 4% rule, which is essentially this idea that you can live on 25 times your annual expenses because you can withdraw 4%, that's kind of the inverse, and
Hmm.
live off of that while your investments grow over time at greater than 4% per year. That math allowed me to realize, wait a second, I don't need 10 million. I just need to look at my annual expenses. So if my annual expenses are $100,000, I need $2.5 million to quote retire. And of course, my intention was never to retire, right?
Yeah,
I
of
know
course not.
we talked a lot about, build a life that you don't need to retire from or you don't
Yep.
want to retire from.
Yep.
And I very much subscribe to that. But when I kind of combine these two concepts together, the mindfulness, which gave me self-awareness, and the financial independence, which gave me a clear goal to aspire to, the intention behind it was I want to build a life where I can be an entrepreneur because that was always my dream. Before Google, I had a startup. Within Google, I thought I'd be there a couple of years and I'd go and build my own thing.
Hmm.
This vision kind of started coming together of, okay, well, I can be an entrepreneur in my own time, in my own way. I can build a business without needing to like chase every dollar and force things like I have done in the past.
Right.
And I can do it in my own time, in my own way, without needing to worry about putting food on the table because I have the financial independence to make that happen. And one thing led to another. Over many years, that vision became clearer and clearer through things like the Mindful Fire podcast, my podcast, which you joined me on.
Hmm. Hmm.
That really helped me get clear on like, what is that business? What is that life that I want to build? And we're here talking about trying life on. I tried that life on along the
You did.
path.
You did. Yeah.
And now I'm in that chapter of my quote early retirement chapter.
Yep.
But what it
You
looks like for
you
me,
yeah, what does that look like? And so just to be clear for folks
sure.
listening, you've now left Google, I believe.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
I'm about 18 months out.
You're 18 months
Um,
old. Yep.
I'm about 18 months out, and there are a lot of lessons from that time.
Mhm.
And now I'm in this, what I'm calling semi-retired entrepreneurship, right? So I am doing it. I'm building my business in my own time, in my own way.
Yep.
And the business really revolves around helping people who are in the on the path to financial independence start living their quote post-fi life now,
There you go.
right? I'm all on the Mindful Fire podcast. It's all about essentially crafting a life you love and making work optional using mindfulness, financial independence, resilience, and envisioning. And so I want people to get clear on what they want after they quote hit that number and quote retire early, but I want them to start trying it on now because
Now.
there's going to be
Yep.
things. Number one, they don't need to wait.
Yep.
That's the biggest mistake people make on the fire path. They race towards the number, they get there, and they have no idea what they want. And that is a recipe for misery. And so the flip side of that is trying life on. Figure out what you want, start trying it. And there are a lot of practices that I teach through my coaching programs and when
Yep.
I do workshops for teams that enable them to very quickly connect with themselves and their biggest vision for their life, which
I love that.
is what I've come to find as my purpose.
Yeah. So let's take a practical step backwards.
Cool.
Where in your corporate journey, like what year in or what physical year was it, where you ran into mindfulness and it resonated with you in some way? Where and how? Because someone out there is listening right now is like, I don't I don't know this stuff, and I don't blame typical society because it's not the kinds of things that we get exposed to in our formal education. We get exposed to all the other stuff that makes us good employees, right? So where did that come in your journey and start to like tack you a little bit to the left or to the right.
Yeah. It came around 2012. So I was 2 years and change into my career, and I was
Okay.
trying to make a lot of things happen. I kind of felt like I was like butting my head up against a wall. And Google acquired this company called AdMeld, and a colleague came from that came from that company, joined my team, and I was
Mm,
kind of complaining to him about having to ride the shuttle every day. And really, I was just kind of like discontented that like the things I was trying to make happen weren't happening. And he said, "Hey, you have all this time on the shuttle, right?" I was riding the shuttle from San Francisco to Mountain View. It was about an hour and a half each way. He's like, "Dude, you
Oof,
should
that's a
try."
lot.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
day. Yeah, 5 days a week back then. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice not to have to drive, but it was a lot of time on the road. And he's like, "You have all this time. Like, why don't you meditate?" I'm like, "Meditate? What are you talking about?" And he says, Meditation makes me a better father, better husband, better at work." And I'm like, "Yo, slow down, buddy." Like I thought he was about to sell me a timeshare.
Right.
And
Right.
I
Right.
was, he was laying it pretty heavy on the sales pitch. But I had all this time and I said, "All right, let me give it a try." I I gave it a try. I started using the guided meditations that he shared with me, and I very quickly realized one thing.
Mm,
I am terrible at meditation,
mm,
and my mind was all over the place. I couldn't focus for even a couple of seconds, and I gave up, right? Like many people do. The kind of been teaching meditation for years since, and the common experience is I'm doing it wrong. People are convinced
right.
they're doing it wrong because their mind is wandering, when in reality, that is what our mind does. It creates thoughts. And so in this moment, I basically gave up. And it wasn't until a couple months later I ran into him again. He hit me with the sales pitch. And I said, "All right." What he told me was, "What you're experiencing is the practice. Noticing and coming back is the
Yes.
practice."
Yes. Mm,
And from there, I went and did a retreat with my wife, which, to be honest, was a Groupon that I got her for Valentine's Day.
mm,
But we went, and it was this place called Ratnaling in Sonoma County, California, this beautiful place where I worked with a real Tibetan Buddhist teacher who kind of showed me how to do the practice and made me feel confident, like this is actually not doing it wrong. It's just that is the practice. And from there, I kind of built that practice and have been doing it since.
yeah. So when you kind of got into mindfulness, and so my way was reverse. I found meditation long after. But I think things like the gym and things like working as a solopreneur while I was at corporate and military, it was my way of going within, but it just
Mm.
in my own way.
Hmm.
But when you did start going within, and I just want to call it out, you articulated what I hope people hear, which is we have this dialogue with our inner voice. There is a dialogue we are having every single day. And if you can become aware of that dialogue, you can hear how language directs your life. You can calm it down. You can tell it, yeah, I'm not doing that today. You can literally change your life. How
Hmm.
did it change your perspective working inside the corporate four walls once you've kind of figured it out?
Yeah, it was a game changer. Yeah, and I loved that episode you did with your friend Eddie about
Eddie. Yeah.
language and NLP. It was fantastic because yeah, it influences everything. The way I talk about that is our stories create our reality.
Yeah.
The stories and thoughts we think and that we pay attention to are like seeds that we're planting and watering. And the
Yes.
ones we tell ourselves most often are the ones that we're watering. And not surprisingly, those grow and ultimately become our behaviors and become our actions.
Whether
And
they are
so
negative or positive, it doesn't matter.
that's exactly what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Before this, and even while I was starting to become aware of these thought patterns, I was doing this. I was literally telling myself stories that were getting me the negative results I was experiencing, up until the point, like to the all the way to the point where I literally envisioned myself out of a job. I had a
Mm,
story around 2014 that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was like, it's now or never. And I joined this online program called The Foundation, where I basically was trying to identify a problem, build a SaaS to solve that problem, and
mm,
and kind of leave Google and continue growing this business and fulfill my dream of being an entrepreneur. But the story that I was telling myself through this time was I success equals quitting Google. And I went
mm,
further and I said, if I get promoted at Google again, I have failed because I am not out living my entrepreneurial dream, right? And so I was practicing this story all the time. And this was me actually aware of the thoughts I was telling myself.
mm.
Before, this was kind of a couple years later, but before I was completely unaware. The negative thoughts and stories were there. It was always just a feeling of like not getting enough done in the day, not being good enough. I think that's at the root of it for most people, is just this not good enough feeling.
Mhm,
Or for
mhm.
me, it's really specifically, it's not doing it right. like there's some judge and there's a right way to
Yeah.
do it. And
Yep.
if you asked
Yep.
me to describe what that right way is, I couldn't tell you,
Hmm.
but I'm not doing it that way. So
Hmm.
that is kind of always a problem there. Um, but once I started to realize like this story is unhelpful, like I kind of caught myself. And there's this question that I teach people to ask themselves is when you notice yourself watering those negative seeds, when you notice yourself caught in a story loop that's not positive,
Hmm.
it's really not it's negative, right? You maybe you didn't get the performance score you wanted, or you were passed up for promotion, and you go around telling everyone over and over and over again. The first few times, that's okay.
Yeah,
But
it's
when
human
you
nature.
notice Exactly. When you
Mhm.
notice yourself caught up in that story for the 10th time, you can ask, is this useful? No
Yes.
judgment, just is this useful? Is this moving me towards what I want, or is it moving me away from what I want?
Hmm.
That requires you to figure out what you want, which is where envisioning comes in. But if it's not useful, you can just let it go. It might come up a few minutes later, but you can notice again with mindfulness and let it go. And as I started to do that more and more, um, I started to let go of those unhelpful stories. And I
Hmm.
can share more about how that all ended. But essentially, I lost my job and I came within 30 days of having to leave Google because I was given some time to find a new role, came within
Hmm.
30 days, realized what I was doing wasn't working, and
Hmm.
decided to put this into practice for myself. So I envisioned what I wanted my ideal situation to look like. And
Hmm.
then I started practicing new stories through a practice I teach called the mindset affirmations practice, where I essentially started practicing the mindsets and beliefs that I wanted to embody on that 30-day, ultimatum 30-day job search. And
Oh.
and I started to see one of the beliefs was the world is abundant with opportunity. And
Hmm.
because I wanted to see opportunities and jobs and all these things. And so I would visualize how is that true in the past? How is that true in the present? And how will that be true in the future? Giving my brain real evidence that it is already true.
Hmm.
Planting and watering those seeds of the story that I want to embody,
Hmm.
and suddenly, opportunities started popping up everywhere. I had people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, my team has headcount," or "You should talk to this person." And I ended at 30 days with two job offers, one outside of Google and one inside. And I stayed inside and worked for an amazing boss for the next 6 years, which is unheard of at a tech
Wow.
company to have the same
Wow.
boss for 6 years.
Yep.
And everything we're talking about, us meeting, all of that is a result of choosing that new story and then seeing it working and then doubling down on that in a
You
big way.
you you chose a new story for yourself. You followed it, and because of it, so I'm just summarizing, you because of it, you started to see opportunities that may have been there the whole time. You just weren't in the receiving mode to even realize that they were there.
Exactly.
That's how powerful. I don't think people understand how powerful thought and language actually is. Um, and the envisioning piece that you talk about, which is so important. But I wanted to see how it kind of manifested in your career. Now, how do you meld that with the financial piece? Because we live in a world where we need money, and my journey was I figured out cash flows pretty early, but I never left work because I was like, no, I like it here. It doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
But how did the financial piece plug in for you? How did you find fire, and how has it actually manifested itself? Like, how are you doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I think to your point about you being ready to see it, right? That's like the key point, right?
Yeah.
By planting these seeds in your mind, by getting clear on what you want and practicing the story of what you want through envisioning practices, you really can start to prime your mind to be ready to see that. And
Hmm.
so, I would invite people to check out a resource I created for your audience. It's called the envisioning exercise. I call it the Phi Life Jumpstart, right? So it's really like if you reached financial independence and you could do anything that you wanted, what would that life look like?
Hmm.
And it goes deeper into the neuroscience that backs this up and how you can start planting those seeds so you can start kind of walking towards that and priming your mind. So when the opportunities present themselves, you're ready to act on it.
Yes.
The analogy I often use is like when you get a new car, right? I got a Subaru Forester 10 years ago, but I got a Subaru Forester and suddenly Subaru Foresters were everywhere,
Everywhere. Yep.
right?
Yep.
I didn't notice them before, they were already there. It's the same thing with these opportunities. When I'm priming my mind in that way, I'm ready to spot those opportunities and take action on them
Yep.
because I'm ready to see them.
Yes.
So, just kind of wanted to close the loop on that because I think that is the key to what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fire piece?
Yes. And so for me, one of the big things I envisioned was the fire piece, right? So kind of how that came about is a friend of mine, a guy named David Moltz, he and I started the same day at Google. He
Yeah.
came to me and he said, "Hey, I know you're all about side hustling and these things, which was a way I was trying life on."
Yeah.
He said, I wanna do a side hustle, but I don't want to do anything related to what we do at work. I don't want to
Yeah.
touch ads." And so I said, "Look, dude, why don't you go figure out how to invest your money?" Right? Like we're both at this point 4 years into our careers. Luckily, we're not spending all our money, but beyond the 401k, we didn't really know what we were doing. And so we
Mhm.
were just kind of saving and hoping for the best. But he went and he learned about financial independence. He found the Choose FI podcast, which is a major podcast in the FIRE movement. I was actually a guest on it yesterday,
Oh,
um,
great.
which
Fantastic.
was awesome. A result of envisioning, of course. And he came back to me and he said, "Hey, here it is." Like he literally taught me everything. And from there, that's kind of what made me realize, like, wait a second, this math is just simple math. It's 25 times annual expenses. So I said, hey, this is doable. Like 2.5 million at that point, I was thinking $100,000, $2.5 million in the bank. It's a lot of money, but it's not 10 million. It's not infinity.
But
And so I just,
this is not 401k money.
th
This is
this is everything.
everything.
Total
Everything.
net worth.
Total net
Exactly.
worth, 2.5
Total
million.
net worth. Exactly. If you need $100,000 to live.
Okay.
And so I just started and I read a book called The Simple Path to Wealth,
Yeah.
which is kind of the Bible, so to speak, of the FIRE movement. And I was fortunate enough to have J.L. Collins on my podcast a couple of times. But this book essentially says the simple path to wealth is very simple: avoid debt, spend less than you make, invest the difference in broad-based index funds. And so that's what I started to do.
Mm.
I know you're big into real estate. My parents built wealth through real estate. Personally, I didn't want to deal with the I call it a headache. I didn't want to
Yeah.
deal with the tenants. I didn't want to deal with that. And at that point, I was living in San Francisco. I was just like, let me do my job. Let me just set
I
it and
get it.
forget it. I
I
work
get it.
really well on the set it and forget it method. And
Yeah.
so I said, okay, how much money do I have saved up from those years of doing nothing? Divide by 24, invest over the next, every other week for the next year. And that's what I did. And over time, I just anything I did, anytime I had a chance, I put more into that and just kind of let it grow
You
and
let it grow.
and it worked really well. Oh, yeah, I
Did
mean, it's been
you,
an amazing run over the last,
for sure.
15 years.
I am, by the way, I'm much more on your side now.
Interesting.
I don't, and I'll talk about it in a second, but let me ask two things for folks I think is important. One, I talk about in the Try Life on Financial Freedom framework, storing your money first before you paying yourself first and storing that money. You didn't necessarily need to store. You could just send it to your broad-based index funds. The way that I did it is I would send money to like a regional bank where I could never get at it. I had no ATM
Mm,
card on it or anything like that.
yeah,
And
you
then
just
once I
diverted
had,
it.
I
Yeah.
just diverted it. But I diverted it, and this is my question for you. I diverted money before I even paid my bills. So it's like money came in, there was a certain amount that went out, and I'm like, oh man, I don't have enough left to pay bills. And I would never take the money out of storage. I'm like, I have to solve this a different way.
Mm,
So I'm
yeah.
wondering, what was your discipline? Because I tell people you don't have to be motivated all the time. You have to
Yeah.
be consistent or disciplined and automated. How did you do it such that you got to a large principal balance, I guess?
Yeah, it was automation. If I
Automation.
had to think about doing it, I wouldn't have done it, right? For me, like I know going to the gym is automatic for you.
Yeah.
It's not automatic for me. I need to make myself go. I made myself go today and I was not happy about it at the time, but I'm happy about it now. I had a headache when I woke up. I don't have a headache anymore. I feel great.
Yeah,
So, but for me, like if I can just build it in. And so for me, it was literally just like send the money to checking and every other week or every week, whatever it was, it was this amount of money is going straight into Vanguard and straight into those index funds like
amazing.
clockwork for years.
Wow. So then you have enough. So what was the, okay, fire movement? I think there's
Hmm.
all kinds of conceptions about the fire movement. I really struggled with it because of there was a premise of scarcity with it where you just,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm not a
Rice and
scarcity,
beans. Yeah,
yeah,
the
I'm
whole
not a
thing.
scarcity guy.
Yeah.
However, I don't care how people get where they are going. It doesn't matter. It's whatever resonates with you. But
Hmm.
where you're 18 months out now of corporate.
Hmm.
There was some decision that came 19 months ago where you're like, you know what? I think it's time. Like what was that? Were you listening to that inner voice of yours? Was it a gut feeling? Was it a financial amount? Was it a conversation with your wife or all of it wrapped up in one? What is that? Because you know how hard it, and I'm going to ask you after, how hard it was to do it and how hard this transition has been.
Yeah, it's a funny question that you ask because um the reality of the situation was that in the same moment, in the same meeting, I was both early retiring and being fired. So,
I love it.
um, I got no time for BS, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it straight. But the thing that I learned through this experience is we don't need to look far to see what's going on in the economy, right? Layoffs are everywhere. 12 a few years ago, around the time that you were on my podcast, 12,000 of my Google colleagues were laid off in the middle of the night via email. And that
Wow.
trend has only
Wow.
accelerated
Wow.
with AI disrupting entire industries. Meta just announced or is considering laying off 20% of their workforce on top of the thousands of people they've already laid off, right? So the reality of today's job market is you can love your job, you can be amazing at it, and you can go above and beyond every single day, and you
Yeah.
can still be reorged to a new boss or a new job entirely, laid off, pushed out, or fired. I kid you not, this whole process started 1 week after I spoke at the CEO of Google's leadership conference. I,
Wow.
I envisioned and made happen an opportunity where I led my Ask What's Possible workshop, which is my mindfulness and envisioning workshop for teams and executives. I led it at the Sundar's leadership conference for a group of VPs. 1 week later, my new boss, who I had been reorged to, told me, "You're not doing enough thought leadership." You can't make this up, right? And from there, I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And so I tried to bring receipts and I tried to, you know, show the reality of the work that I was doing. I literally thought, wow, I've been through 11 reorgs in the last 10 years. This is the most quickly I've bounced back and been crushing it. I mean, I was doing the job, I was doing all this stuff on the side. I facilitated workshops for over 4,000 Googlers on the side of my core job. Got promoted 3 times.
God.
All
Wow.
it takes is one boss that doesn't like you or is getting pressure to push somebody out,
That's
and
it.
you happen to be the person, and it can be you. And so, over this period of time, the lesson that I had was in the fire movement, we talk a lot about FU money, having
Hmm.
money in the bank. So if shit hits the fan, you can say, F you, I'm out of here, and I'm
Hmm.
going to be okay.
Hmm.
What I realized is that FU money is sufficient. Sorry, I realized that FU money is necessary, but not sufficient.
Hmm.
FU money gives you options and security, but vision gives you direction and momentum.
Hmm.
And about, a few months into this process, I came to a meeting. It was a surprise on my calendar, and it was an ultimatum. It was, hey, you're getting a performance warning. Even though you showed all the things you showed me, we didn't really care about. You're going to have a performance warning, and you have 3 days to decide if you want a small amount of severance or you want to go on a PIP, which is essentially indefinite purgatory. And you could be
Wow.
fired any day, anytime.
Wow.
And don't get me wrong, having FU money in the bank,
Hmm.
absolutely critical. I was
Hmm.
able to look at this situation in the meeting. I'm standing in the same spot where this meeting happened, and I went immediately on the offense because I
Hmm.
did not, number one, I didn't do anything wrong.
And you didn't need them. They just didn't know it.
They didn't know it.
Yes,
They're
that's the
used to
power.
people having a, $20,000 a month mortgage and
Yep.
needing the money.
Yep.
And I didn't need the severance. I didn't need the salary. And so that was powerful. But what really kept me sane and what really kept me moving forward and why I turned down the money, where most people I know take the money and run because it's a horrible, stressful situation, I saw that my vision wasn't done. So
Mm.
my vision is all about, as I said, building a business in my own time, in
Number
my own
one.
way,
Yes.
connecting people with this their biggest vision for their team and their life and their work. And I always, in the back of my mind, for years, had this vision of wanting to pitch the president of large customer sales at Google, a guy who used to be my VP and was super supportive
Hmm.
of me and my Sundar workshop. I wanted to pitch him on doing this at the executive summits. So Google brings the C-level executives of Fortune 50 companies to Google and they show them the dog and pony show, the AI, the self-driving cars, all the things. And I thought that this would be a really amazing way to deepen the partnership by creating a big, ambitious, shared vision and getting them talking to each other at the start of the day.
Mm.
And I couldn't shake it for years. I was like, this would be amazing. I would love doing this job. I know it would be super valuable for the company. And so when I got presented with this ultimatum, I said, it's go time. It's now or never. Because once I leave the company, it's not easy. I'm not going to be able to get back in. So I turned down the money and I went in kind of go mode. And I
Mm.
ended up pitching him on this. I got a meeting with him. It had gotten canceled. I went to his door. I knocked on the window. I said, "Hey, Sean, if I can have I know you have had to cancel it. You're super busy. I get it. If you need," he's like, "I got to go talk to the chief business officer." I mean, yeah, you definitely got to do that. But if you have 3 minutes at any point today, I'd love to share this idea with you. I think it would be really valuable. He's like, "Can I ping you?" I'm like, "I'll be sitting right there. Don't worry." And I sat outside his office, not on the floor, but
Yep.
at a desk, and I worked there. A couple hours later, he comes out. He says, "Adam, I got 3 minutes, and I got to pack my bag while we're talking." I said, no problem. I pitched him, shared the idea. He's like, I totally agree. I think that's a
Mm.
great idea. I want you
Mm.
to talk to this VP. One thing led to another. I ended up getting a pilot on the books to do this for a big Latin American company. Um, unfo-
Within your infrastructure, within the Google family, or
Within Google.
within
Yep.
Google? Okay.
Within Google. I was going to do it at the executive summit. I was going to fly out to Mountain View and do it. And unfortunately, one day before that was set to begin is when I was fired.
Wow.
And and the reason for that is because that happened to be the end of Q3. So they just wanted to get one more employee off the
Yeah.
books.
And you don't, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but okay, I did survive 25 years corporate, but I just did it. I was looking at the podcast episode number. It's 153, leveraging your 9 to 5 more than it leverages you. But I talked about the fact
Mm,
that I navigated 3 layoffs at Accenture during those 25 years. People, we are not, what's the right way to put it? I don't take it personal. I don't take it personal because every organization ebbs and flows, goes down in numbers, goes up in numbers. Expenses are high, expenses are low. We are teetering with money, so we're bringing more people in. There's all these ebbs and flows that you have to
hmm
figure out. But what you got right, from my perspective, is this is going to come to an end at some point. And what is going to be there that sustains me where I don't need them? And one of the most powerful experiences I've had of late is partners at Accenture who, you remember, I turned down partner a bunch of times,
hmm
who are still there and can't get out.
hmm
They've
hmm
never taken a mindful moment like an Adam to create a plan or understand their juxtaposition in life, where they're going to head at some point. Or I didn't have an overall plan, but I just knew I just want to create cash flow, so I did that.
hmm
There's something there. So at month 19 or month 18, and I know you're getting fired at this point or something, but did you like, where is your gut now? Like, where is your feelings, emotions? Like, is this really happening to me? Do I have enough? We humans are tied to identity of work sometimes, and that scares us a bit. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious how that was manifesting itself for you.
Yeah. And what you're describing with, with the partners, and this is so common in the fire movement that people they know the math, they've got the money saved, yet they're stuck. And they call it one more year syndrome. Oh, I'll just work one more year to make
Yeah.
sure. I just want to make sure. They tell themselves, they convince themselves, they just want to make sure they have enough money that they don't run out. The
Mhm.
reality is they haven't built the life that they want to retire into
Yes,
along the
they don't
way.
have a runway to get off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had that. And that's why I like in that moment, the money situation was fine. I was like, I, I've got enough money, right? Maybe, I thought I was in a good spot, like nearing financial independence, but I knew that I had enough to last me a while, even if I needed to get a job at some point in the future.
Mm,
So it wasn't a worry there. But importantly, I had the vision that I was building towards. I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had been doing the podcast for years. I had been teaching these workshops inside Google, getting clearer and clearer that I love facilitation and I want to do workshops and I love challenging people to think bigger and connect with their big vision. And so I knew the direction I was going and what I was building towards. And, I didn't get to choose the timing, right? And so when I had that ultimatum meeting and I was essentially ambushed with a
mm,
performance review,
mhm.
um, I was, to be honest, I was devastated. Like I had
It
physical
hurt.
pain in
It
my
hurt.
body
Yeah.
as if I was stabbed in the front on the stomach and the back. Like I had to lay down for a couple hours after that, and the
Yeah.
pain from that was extreme. And so like but I, from there I kind of picked myself up and through this whole process, like turning down the money was like a little scary,
Mm,
just because it wasn't so much the money, it was like knowing that I was going back into a situation that didn't want me and was going to be extremely difficult, right? They
mm,
don't make pips easy, right? They clearly wanted to get someone off their books and they doubled my workload. But I went
mm.
in and every day I crushed it. I made 10, 10 account, I was managing a $500 million in revenue. I made 10 account plans for new accounts in 3 weeks. Went all the way up to the president guy that I was talking about, my work. And I was confident. And the thing through the whole thing is like, I am so resilient. And the
Mm.
lesson was it was FU money and the clear vision of what I was trying to create that kept me going
It kept you
and
moving.
building that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can respect that. I can
Yeah.
respect. And I can
Eh,
also respect, I can see the emotion in your body and in just in your physiology. I can feel it.
Yeah.
There was emotion to it.
Yeah. And so to your question of like where I'm at, 18 months out,
Yeah.
I'm mostly over it, right? Because it was a pretty big betrayal. I think leaving any environment that you've been in for a long time, and you know this, right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
an adjustment, right? There's a pace at which you're operating in that environment in a way of being that maybe doesn't jive with the new world that you're living in. And for
Yeah.
me, that process was protracted because it was just so intense for
It was
so long
big. Yeah.
before that. And I thought I was over it multiple times, but I'd say it took about a year. I'd say I'm mostly over it now, but I'd say it took a year and 3 months to like put that behind me. And
Yeah.
it took multiple rounds of thinking I was there to realize, wait a second, there's that same energy. There's that same, if you get me telling the story, it comes
It
back.
comes back.
But
I can feel it.
yeah, yeah,
I
you
can
can
feel it.
feel it,
Yeah,
right?
I can. I can.
And this is the PG version.
Brother, I had my same similar version. The only person that called me when I
Mm,
resigned from Accenture slash retired from Accenture.
hmm
Only one person called. One.
hmm
After
hmm
25 years. Not even a client, not the head of Accenture Federal Services, no one except
mm
just my boss of 7 years who was like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "This is tough." And she's like, "I'm not there yet, Maurice, but I can't imagine after doing something for 2.5 decades what this feels like."
hmm Was
But
that the woman? Was that the same woman that you told me
Elaine,
about
yeah,
that that paved the path for you to do everything that
that's
you were
it.
able to do?
Oh,
Yeah.
there was two people. One was named Gail, who helped me become
Mm.
a police officer quietly. And
hmm
one was named Elaine, who kind of shielded me from upper management when I said no to partnership track.
Right. They don't love that.
That lady has called me, with the war going on in the Middle East and stuff. She
Hmm.
just texted me like 5 days ago. Where are you? I'm just making sure you're okay. Like she's
Hmm.
still looking out for me. So it's
Yeah.
it's we're lucky you had your VP. I had her. Um, so okay. Now you are 18 months out, and just as we wrap up, I'm thinking you are in this post-career construction phase,
Hmm.
trying to figure out what your state is like or your identity, what life feels like, the rhythm. It's hard because what we know when we were employees is get up, out the door, go. You're probably fighting with aspects of your old identities where echoes of
Mm.
your old identity keep popping up, but that's not you anymore. So I'm sure there's a little
Certainly.
bit of tension. What is it like today, especially for those who are thinking of, and there's a lot, I gotta jump. I can't do this anymore. But then there's this whole other arc you have to deal with, which I'm dealing with as well.
Yeah, no, it takes a good bit of time. I think time is key, right? Give yourself time afterwards, like just like a period of time where I just did nothing, right? And I was coming off a very difficult situation, but I imagine it for anybody.
Yeah,
Give
man.
yourself just some space to, you don't need to jump right into the next thing and have it all figured out. And, I kept saying, I'm trying to find my rhythm. And it was 3 months before I found my rhythm. But I think it's like, the envisioning work that I mentioned really helps, right?
Mm.
So getting clear on what that life is, and I know you have your perfect day
You got
exercise,
it. Yeah,
right?
we're very similar. Yeah.
Very similar, right? So get clear on what that life looks like in a perfect day, and then like what are those anchor activities, right? Maybe it's the gym, right? For me, one of the things is I wanted to be, an mindset affirmation I do is healthy, strong, and full of life.
Yeah.
And so, what are the things around that? So going to the gym, a lot of going swimming at the gym.
Hmm.
So like some stuff like that, going on, building walks into your day or hiking. Like, what are these anchors that you can start putting in place that ground you and start helping you get a taste for that and building a little bit of momentum? Um, and just kind of having grace for yourself that you don't need to figure this all out. And especially if you're moving into this, if it's like early retirement or it's semi-retirement or whatever it is, like just remembering like there's no rush. Theoretically, you're doing this for the rest of your life. So give yourself the space. And when you notice yourself caught up in those old stories and those old ways of being, because I absolutely did again and again and again, just that I should be further along, my business should be bigger. Why aren't people responding to my emails or whatever, like just back up and say, it's okay, right?
Yeah.
And realize, and I talked a lot about planting seeds. One of the big lessons was I
Mm.
looked at the first year of as planting seeds,
Mm.
right? Like for the business. But my mind wanted the fruit right away, right?
Hmm.
And that's not how seeds
No.
work.
Mm-mm.
It takes time. And
Mhm.
so you need to give yourself time and trust that it's going to happen and just focus on putting one foot in front of the other and just focus on like how do you feel, right? Does it feel good? Are you enjoying it? Right? I had a woman on my podcast. She wrote a book called Love Money, Money Loves You. Her name's Sarah McCrum, and she has a concept in there. It's like, what if you used enjoyment as your measure of success,
I
right?
love
How
it.
much are you
I love
enjoying
it.
it?
Yeah.
And, for me, year one, I noticed I was optimizing for money. I was making decisions based on how much money they would make my business.
Hmm.
And to some degree, that makes sense in a business. But looking back on that, I made a decision to focus on corporate workshops. I
Hmm.
love doing corporate workshops and facilitation. But what I realized is I spent most of the year sitting behind a keyboard, writing emails, trying to generate business, marketing the workshops. I
Hmm.
wasn't actually doing them. And so, as much as I'd like. And so looking at year two, it's like, well, do I want to keep doing that or do I want to do something different? And so, and then another thing I was doing, I was, I kept having this idea of wanting to create a community, a very simple community where people could come together, talk about their vision and
Yeah.
practice mindfulness together and all these things. And I kept thinking, well, that's not going to make any money, right? Like, why am I going to do that? And so I set it aside again and again. But looking into year two, which I'm now in, I'm not optimizing for money anymore. I'm
Mm.
optimizing for connection and fun.
Yes.
And I have since, I'm certainly open to doing corporate workshops, but I'm not spending all my time, 100% of my time trying to generate those.
Yeah.
I'm back in the world of group coaching because I love that. Literally, while they were trying to fire me, I launched my first group coaching program, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, I'm like, I'm not going to take the money, but guys, I got to let you know, I'm also not going to work Fridays." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not working Fridays anymore.
I
I
love it.
have the vacation days, so I'm not going to do it," because I was doing my group coaching. And every time it was so enriching. I went from a hellish week of that to an environment where I'm curating and cultivating these big visions and getting people to connect and thrive. And I loved it. And
Yep.
so now I'm back doing that. And I have created what I call the Mindful Fire Legends community. And it's just,
Mm.
I did it like an hour ago. And it's just so wonderful to have these conversations with people. And I'm feeling connected. I'm having fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna double down on you before I ask you the one last outro question, but I
Sure.
am no longer optimizing for money either. I have deleveraged on a personal level. I like repeating this because the notion of a real estate, in fact, my happiness is coming from taking things away. My life has
Mm,
gotten so simple that I can see everything. I know where everything is. And then similar to you, after I started coaching and helping a lot of people, I had a big urge to get everybody together.
mm.
And I finally did that. There's a Try Life on WhatsApp community, which, by the way, I want to invite you to. Not
Oh,
only
thank
is
you.
just being there because you're like-minded, but to speak to them because your story, they're
Love
going to
that.
hear this, and then I'll tell you how we do that or what have you. But
Cool.
I optimize not for money anymore. I optimize for life fulfillment. I want to give one example, which is I set when I'm usually in Europe or the Middle East, I walk everywhere. But in the US, we tend to drive everywhere. So I changed my gym from my NFL style gym that was 35 minutes away to a local Gold's gym that's near my house. I bought this house intentionally because it's 3 blocks from my kid's school. So when I walk my son to school in the morning, then I walk to the gym. After I leave the gym, then I walk to my coffee shop. Then I do a round around my neighborhood. I stop in at certain shops where I've started to know people, and then I go home. And the whole fulfillment of it for me
Mm,
was just knowing people in my town like I used to when I was a street
yeah.
cop, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, it makes me so happy. And people don't always, well, not outwardly, place value on what we just talked about, which is optimizing so you feel good on a
Hmm.
day-to-day basis, not necessarily the max amount of money.
Exactly. I love that. I mean, that sounds like a wonderful morning. And, based on our conversations, that sounds perfect for you. So I'm glad,
Yeah, it's great.
like it's what it's all about. It's all about figuring out, what do I want this to look and feel like? And in the exercise I mentioned, right, which
Yeah.
people can grab at mindfulfire.org/try life on, it's going to ask you, what do you want to feel like? Because feelings
Uh,
drive everything. And so, I know, that's amazing, right? And for me, like being in that community with, my small little Mindful Fire Legends community, today we had three people and me, and it was amazing because you can just be real and we can share what's going on and you get to know people, right? Like you said in your community, like it's almost like a lost art,
yes, it
these
is.
days. We're so disconnected from each other and we need that. We are human beings that evolved and survived because of those connections. So
Absolutely.
it feels really good for a reason.
Well, you already wrapped up beautifully, so I don't even need to ask you an outro thing. I think you are headed somewhere that I think I am now, but in your own way,
Hmm.
which is so I hit 50 in August. Uh, and I said to myself, I don't need to grow anything anymore. I can work on passion projects, which I am through TV and film now, but I'm going to get even more intentional about noticing the beautiful parts of life and this planet. Man, I recognize the same birds that fly in my backyard and I see them every morning now, or in the global WhatsApp community for Try Life On, there's like 45 countries represented from 110 people. People have gotten together all over the world. They've come to my house. I've gone to go see them. It's almost like we get back to being the original curious kid again.
Mm.
I've
Hmm.
gotten back there. And when you get back there, this is my experience of what I'm trying to solve with my own coach now. Now that I'm back in that mode to an extent, and I'm learning how to be rather than do, which is very difficult to unwind. It feels phenomenal, and status quo and even entrepreneurial life can't have me back.
Mm,
It's too nice. It feels too good. And I
mm,
think that's what mindfulness is about. I think that's what trying life on is about. My definition is not the right definition. Your definition is the definition for you, but there's so
mhm.
many ways to be mindful about life, and that's why I wanted people to hear your story.
Well, I resonate. I've resonated with your approach for since I came across you on LinkedIn. I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. He's amazing. And so I think we are on, you're we're on a similar journey, and we have different ways about talking about the same thing. And so I really appreciate you and the opportunity to come here and share my way of talking about this with your audience.
Amazing. I love your journey, man. Thanks for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
Hey guys, this is Maurice, host of the Try Life On podcast, and thank you for listening to another episode. I hope you are finding it useful and helping you design your own lifestyle that you don't need a vacation from. If that's the case, please consider dropping a review for me, whether in Apple, iTunes, or in Spotify. Drop a review, put some stars on it. Give me some feedback on how I can make the podcast better, what information you are looking for. I am doing my best to get information to you on the Try Life On principles, the 5 freedoms, how to build lifestyle, travel hacking, all of it. And I want to do it for you. So please do a review for me. And until next time, my name is Maurice Philogene, and this is the Try Life On podcast. Peace.